हेलो गाइस, तो आपको स्वागत है हमारे चैनल पे लेट्स लर्न विद अस्पेद। तो यार आज हम पढ़ने वाले हैं यार हिस्ट्री ऑफ कंप्यूटर्स। ठीक है, इसको बड़े तरीके से हम देखेंगे कि हिस्ट्री ऑफ कंप्यूटर्स क्या है, कैसे जो हिस्ट्री है, ठीक है, कंप्यूटर की जो हिस्ट्री है, कैसे ओरिजिनेट हुआ, कैसे कंप्यूटर जो हमारा पीसी है, जो हम जो देखते हैं, जिस फॉर्म में हम देखते हैं, वो कैसे हुआ। तो जो ये वीडियोज़ होगी ये पूरी इंग्लिश में होगी, ठीक है। सो आई वॉन्ट दैट यू कंटिन्यू द सीरीज़, एंड इफ़ यू हैव एनी प्रॉब्लम you can just uh, comment it down. Okay, so this is the structure. Okay, the first computer which is being built, this is INAC, ENIAC. ठीक है, so this is the first electronic large scale general purpose digital computer. So at first form there is no transistor is being used, means there is no transistor when the first PC is being built. If you want to know what a transistor is, what is its use, and how it is being made, all I explain in my video. Okay, you can check out it, and you can easily know that what is the value of transistor and how it changed, and not only change it, simply give direction to all the thing. Either if we talk about CCTVs, if we talk about hubs, if we talk about switches, if we talk about anything, okay, even your mouse, even your TV, electronics, in everything, transistor is being used. So transistor is another topic. Okay, in this video I am not gonna talk about transistors. In this video we're gonna talk about history of computers, and this video is also gonna be on three parts, because in first video we're gonna cover the generation first and generation second computers. Okay, uh, on upcoming series we're gonna talk about generation third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, then the latest one. So this is, you can all see basically how a woman is just changing the wires, so that calculations or the process are being executed. Okay, so this is not a simple module. Okay, you can just see on her lap there are several wires which are being held by this woman. Basically how and why all this. Okay, so first we introduce with INAC. So INAC full form is electronic numerical integrator and computer. Okay, I repeat, INAC means electronic numerical integrator and computer. It is widely considered the first general purpose electronic digital computer. It was completed in 1945 and became fully operational in 1946. While there were earlier computing machine, INAC was unique in several ways that make it historical significant. Okay, so before INAC there is our servers. Okay, but several computers are being there, but INAC just change the overall structure, overall that everything. Okay, so we can basically we can say that first general purpose, if there is electronic digital computer, that is INAC. Okay, so it is completed in 1945 and become fully operational in 1946. So you can just imagine how much time and how much value and how much investment it gonna take to just build these big computers. Okay, that this computer size is not just random. Okay, they are being in 6 or 7 rooms. Can you imagine how big and how complex and how these things are? Okay, just you have to do in a simple calculations of five digit or thousand digit or even more. You have to just assemble these large computers, okay, which are being spread on 1000 square feet of land, is taking so much space and even doing so less work. Okay, so this is the uh, at that time this is their achievement. Okay, so what are the key points? First general purpose computer, so INAC was designed to be programmable for a wide range of tasks, not just for specific problem. Other machine were usually limited to specific tasks. Okay, so at that time earlier machines are not general purpose. Okay, they are usually uh, limited to specific task. For example, if we make a PC for a calculation, so they basically do calculation only. Okay, if we make for just a simple snake game, the snake game we play on Nokia mobile handset, if you gonna make that, so that PC gonna perform only that thing. Okay, it cannot perform the calculation. So a specific limited functions are being there. Okay, But INEC changed this thing. INEC made that features more profound and more variety ways. Okay, not just limited to specific problem. INEC is the first programmable a wide range of tasks, not just for specific problems. This has to be clear in your mind. Okay, electronics part. The INEC was fully electronic, using vacuum tubes for its components. Computation, unlike the earlier mechanical computers like Zeus Z3, Colossus, which rely on mechanical parts or relays. Okay, so this is the something which differ INEC from other computers, that it use the vacuum tubes. In earlier computers, they are being using relays or mechanical parts, but INEC changed the things. It used the vacuum tubes, which definitely open so much horizon, and we're able to make future computers. So third point is that massive size. And INEC was an enormous, filling a room that was, as I talked earlier, 1,800 square feet, and used about 17,468 vacuum tubes. Can you imagine that 17,468 vacuum tubes are being used, so that INEC is being processed, and 7,200 crystal diodes. So now the question arises, why crystal diodes are being used, what their use is. So okay, so in vacuum tubes there is crystals are being used, because at that time there is no silicon or any other material is being found at that time. So basically they use the crystal, and in crystals basically light in being transferred, and it work with other things, so that process are being executed. Okay, and 1500 relays are being used. It consumes around 150 kilowatts of electricity. Can you imagine 150 kilowatts of electricity is being consumed by this enormous amount of computers. Now speed. Compared to earlier mechanical or relay computer, INEC was extremely fast and capable of performing about 5,000 addition per second. So yeah, INEC is definitely better in term of capabilities and processing powers, because in 1 second it can do 5,000 additions. Okay, you can imagine. And earlier in previous design there are mechanical or relay based computers. Okay, they are not that fast, but INEC made it capable, or make it possible, that 5,000 addition per second capability is being get by humans at that time using the INEC. This was revolutionary for its time, because as it or allowed complex calculation that would have taken weeks or months to be done in hours. Okay, so can you imagine the calculation which has to be taken hours or days or week or even months are being done in hours. So definitely at that time it is a revolutionary thing. Okay, now purpose. Initially, INEC would develop for the US Army to calculate artillery firing tables during World War II, but it wasn't completed until after the war. So the thing is that any great technologies, okay, it is being basically developed because of war. Okay, it's not something that developed for human upgradation. Basically, the idea of human uh, at the time was survival or winning the war at any cost. So INEC was basically developed so that artillery fires are being uh, precisely at to the enemy point. Okay, but the speed of developing it is slow. Because of that it takes time, and because of that it completed after the war. Okay, so it later found use in other areas such as weather prediction or atomic energy calculation, or even earlier computer science research. As you see now, the computer we are using, it is also being developed or being in this shape because of that INEC or other earlier computers generations, which help to develop more and more and more sophisticated design, so that it getting smaller, faster, and affordable. Now, vacuum play a key role in earlier generation of computer, acting as a basic electronic component for amplifying and switching electrical signals. Okay. Now the question arising in all your minds, and even a general person mind, that what are the vacuum tubes, what are they really are. Because of that we're gonna process the high amount of data. So vacuum tubes is an electronic device that control the flow of electronic current in a high vacuum between electrode inside a sealed gas containers. I repeat, a vacuum tube is an electronic device that control the flow of electric current in a high vacuum between electrodes inside a sealed glass containers. So they are electronic device that control the flow of electronic current in a high vacuum between electrodes and inside a sealed glass containers. So what happen is that there is cathode, there is anode, and there is grid. So what happen is that in cathode, okay, heated to release electrons. So basically it heated so that electron is being released. Anode attract the electron along current to flow. Because of that, uh, the anode side attract these electrons, and because of that, releasing and attracting the current, let the current is being flow. And the what the grid do is the control the flow of electrons from cathode to anode. So grid do is that flow of electrons is being controlled by grid. So this is how the electronic circuit is being developed, okay, in a sealed glass container. All these processes are being done in a sealed container. Because of that, uh, a circuit kind things is being formed. Okay, they were widely used in electronics before the invention of transistors, and were crucial for the operation of first generation of computers in 1946 to 1959. A vacuum tube typically has three main parts, as we discussed: cathode, anode, and grid. Okay, now how vacuum tube function in computers. So vacuum tubes used in switching and amplifying signals, which are the core operation of processing binary data. As we know that binary data are 0 and 1s. So what vacuum tube does, it do the switching and amplifying signals. So now question is how it do the switching and amplify the signals. Okay, so give me 2 minutes. So what happen is that switching, what we mean by switching. So switching means on and off state. Okay, so what is binary logic, how binary logic is being connected to the switching. So what happens is that computer process data using binary logic, or, as we all know, 0 and 1. A vacuum tube can represent these states. Okay, how a vacuum tube represent these state. So when the tube is on, allowing the current to flow, for example, anode to cathode, the current is being flow and the grid is controlling that. So at that time, it is represented by 1. Okay, so when the tube is off, blocking current, it represent as a 0. Okay, now you understand. This same logic is being used in transistors 0 and 1. Okay, now this 0 and 1s are basically used in AND or NOR or XOR thing, so that complex calculation is being done. You understand my point. The very basic thing is that simply we comes to the 0 and 1. If we somehow represent 0 and 1, so we can easily do our next process, which we call as higher calculation, for example, divide, multiply, or even show the images and much more things. Okay, but the first thing is that how fastly we can represent or we can show 0 and 1. So it basically done by using what, uh, when the current is flow, it is being shown as 1, and when the tube is off blocking the current, it is represented as 0. Okay, now this is our binary logic. Now second thing is that switching role. Vacuum tube act like switches controlling whether current flowed or not. This enable computer to perform logic operation, for example, and or not, etc., that are the foundation of computation. Okay, now second thing is clear, that vacuum tube act like switches. So these vacuum tubes act like switches controlling whether current flow or not. This enable computers to perform logic operations, for example, and or not. And these functions, these are the foundation of computation, as we all know. Okay, now second thing is that amplification. So signal amplification, vacuum tubes could also amplify weak signals in computer. This means weak electrical signals could be strengthened to ensure proper functioning over distance within machine. Okay, now we get that vacuum tubes are being used as switching on and off and binary logic and switching role. But how these are being used? Amplification. So first of all, single amplification are being used uh, by vacuum tubes. How vacuum tubes could also amplify weak signals? How in computer this means weak signal electronic signals could be strengthened to ensure proper functioning over long distance within one machine. Okay, so when you can simply increase the power, okay, it amplify the signals, and as the signals amplify, it can properly functioning over long distance within machine. Okay, you can transfer the signals over long distance with use of wires. Okay, now the second thing is that essential for the earlier computers, in since earlier signals, electronic signals are were relatively weak. Okay, amplification was crucial to maintain signal integrity as it travel through circuit in computers. So earlier electronic signals are relatively weak. Okay, so to function at that point, amplification was crucial to maintain signal integrity as it travel through circuit in computer. uh, you get that point? Means at that earlier time we all know that not much at that time is been available. So so we want the signal has to be transferred. For that, signal integrity has to be maintained. To maintain the signal integrity, we amplify or we strengthen uh, signals by increasing the current flow, so that electronic signals were not weak enough uh, and maintain signal integrity at the time. Okay, now how vacuum tube enable computer operations? So how the computer operation are being really performed? If you get my previous point, that what we overall do, that we overall is doing lighting, the electronic current is being passed to anode to cathode. By passing the electronics current from anode to cathode, and by switching 0 and 1 and 1 and 0 on and off, we are generating uh, 0 and 1 binary number. Using binary number we perform and or XOR and NOR computation, and using that computation we do multiple computation. Okay, now arithmetic and logic operations, how we do that? Computer work by processing number and logical condition. Vacuum tubes allow computer to perform basic arithmetic and logical operators by acting as switches in circuit designed to add, subtract, compare, and make decision. Okay, now second point is that memory and storage. Vacuum tubes were also used in computer memory. So this is a very important point to be noted, that vacuum tubes not only just used for computation, it is also used as computer memory. Earlier computers used vacuum tubes as flip flop. So what is flip flop? Flip flop, the basic building block for storing individual bit of data 0 and 1. A vacuum tube could hold either a 0 or a 1, contributing to earlier form of electronic memory. Okay. So now the question is that what really happened at the memory side? Okay. So even on the memory, there is nothing. There is all 0 and 1. So if you say that what happened in memory, memory also store data using 0 and 1, and how we get the data from that memory? Simply by extracting 0 and 1 and do the process, and we extract the data from it. Okay, so everything, you see everything, it is nothing, 0 and 1, 0 and 1, 0 and 1. Okay, now third thing is speed. Even though earlier computers used vacuum tubes were slow by today's standards, they were much faster than the mechanical computers which rely on moving parts like gear. Vacuum tube allowed computers to perform calculation in milliseconds rather than minute or hours. Okay, so this thing has to be noted, that yes, even though they are very slow compared to the modern devices, but if you compare it with the previous computers which are which has mechanical gears and much less technology, they are much superior to them. Okay, so this thing has to be noted. Now why vacuum tubes were eventually replaced? Okay, so what the reason are that vacuum tubes has to be replaced? Why they cannot work on large scale and carry on to the uh, longer terms. So vacuum tubes were large and earlier computer used thousands of them. So can you imagine that 17,468 vacuum tubes are being there, and how much manpower is being used to let these vacuum tubes work 24 and 7 hours. Okay, for example, the INEC has 70,468 vacuum, as we discussed earlier, which made it huge and inefficient. These tubes also generate a lots of heat and consume a lots of power. Can you imagine the heat it generated in that rooms, that they are just you cannot just place these computer in a heavy temperature like India or any other country, because it gonna just explode. Okay, it cannot just take that amount of heat. But our future processor, like today, that today we have in AMD or Intel 6 or 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, they are being far capable or even work on 40 degrees Celsius or even 50 degrees Celsius, 70 or even 80 degrees Celsius. Okay, they are being designed for that higher temperature. But earlier vacuum tubes or even the register are not comfortable to today amount of heat. Okay, so vacuum tube would burn out frequently, meaning computer using them require constant maintenance. So yeah, this is the thing I am talking about. Invention of transistor. The invention of transistor in late 1940s allowed for much smaller, more efficient, and more reliable electronic components. By the 1950, transistor began to replace vacuum tubes in computer, leading to development of second generation computers. So this is has to be noted, that as the transistor is being come into pictures, the vacuum tubes slowly uh, were dull out. Okay, now summary. So basically, vacuum tube act as electronic switches and or etc. and amplify in first generation computer. Clear. Second thing is that they enable computers to process binary data 0 and 1 by controlling the flow of electricity. As the electricity flow so on, as the electricity goes off, the 0 is being represented by that. Vacuum tubes were crucial for logic operation, memory, and data processing in earlier computers. Even now, uh, 0 and 1 or data memory logic operation or is being done by 0 and 1. Okay, but today we are using transistors. Although they were breakthroughs, vacuum tubes were large, hot, and unreliable. Okay, so you can imagine, yeah, they were breakthrough, but they are very much large, hot, and unreliable, because they keep getting burn out, and were eventually replaced by transistors which were small, faster, and more efficient. Now, manual rewiring in INEC. So, plug boards and switches. INEC used plug boards, which were large panel filled with wires and switches. To perform a different computation or task, engineers has to manually plug and unplug wires and change the setting of switches. So these plug boards were essentially a way to connect different parts of computer, its arithmetic unit, or control circuits, etc. for different operations. For example, if INEC was programmed to add two number and you want it to multiply, you had to physically rewire the connection on the plug boards. So you can imagine, if you have to just multiply two numbers, you have to just uh, rewire it and reprogram it using have to change the wire in that 1700 square foot of rooms. So how complex and how tedious and how labor incentive uh, the work is. Okay, so no stored program. INET didn't have a concept of stored program. This means that the instruction, the program were not stored in a memory, but instead were hardwired into the machine. Changing the program required manual intervention, rearranging wires and adjusting switches on the hardware. So this process could take hours or even days, as you have to rewire the machine for every new problem you wanted to solve. So can you imagine that every new problem you have to solve, you have to just rewire it, and again then change the setting, and again you have to rewire it. So it is a tedious task and has to do so much task. Okay, so just to simply do the general purpose work. So now the key features of von Neumann architecture. What really the von Neumann architecture says. So stored program concept. So this von Neumann architecture gives us a store program concept. The most important idea of von Neumann architecture is both program instruction and data are stored in the same memory. So what earlier, the first person has to say that the program instruction, you give the program instruction and the data are stored in the same memory. This allows computer to easily modify program or data as needed. So what before this concept, computer like INEC need manual rewiring to change the program. With von Neumann design, the computer can switch between tasks by simply loading a different program into memory. So earlier, if you have to change the program, you have to, because you have to change the wire, because the data is stored in a separate disk and the program instruction are being stored in separate disk. But all this is being changed when the von Neumann architecture or the von Neumann give the idea that why you not storing the program instruction and the data in the same memory, why you are just storing it in separate memory. So because of that, everything is being changed, because before that you have to just manually changing the wires, and how tedious the task is, you just imagine. Okay, now second thing is that single memory space in Neumann in von Neumann architecture, there is a single memory for storing both instruction and data. The CPU fetch both from the same place. So that is the thing. This memory is often referred as RAM, random access memory, in modern system. So the RAM which we today talks, and which we know as RAM, a simple chip. At that time, you have to just physically rewiring the all things to just access the program instruction in the other place and the data on the other place. So you can imagine how tedious and how unnecessary the work you have to do. Now let's talk about what von Neumann cycle is, how it works. So von Neumann architecture, now we only said Neumann, okay, is based on fetch, decode, execute cycle. So what the fetch, decode, execute cycle is? In fetch, the control unit fetches next instruction from the memory, which is stored as binary number. So what control unit do is it fetches the next instruction from memory. What the next instruction is, what we have to do next. Okay, which is stored as a binary number 0 or 1. Okay, now second point is that decode, you have to decode, the control unit decode the instruction, figuring out what it means and what needs to be done. Okay, now it decode, because as we earlier said that it's been stored in binary number. So to convert binary number in the form that has been understood by the other parts of our computer, has to be first decoded. Okay, then after decoding, you have to execute the control unit signals, the ALU, the arithmetic logical unit, to perform the operation. For example, if after decode there is a addition command we output of, or we get a multiplication command, we have to do that thing if necessary, or it handle data movement, or if there is nothing, just data has to be handled, or data has to carry or pass on. So it only do the pass on things. Okay, it don't have to do the addition, subtraction, or any other function. Okay, so in execute, the thing has to be executed, it execute that. Now fourth point is repeat, the cycle repeat with next instruction continue until the program is finished. So this cycle is keep going till the function or till the program is being not executed fully. Now what are some challenges in Neumann bottleneck, which we referred as Neumann bottleneck? Okay, so where speed of computer is limited by the rate at which data instruction can move between memory, RAM, and CPU. This happen because both instruction and data use same memory and same bus, creating a bottleneck for data flow. So yeah, this thing really even on today computers it troublesome. What the thing is that as we data instruction are, data or program instruction are being both uh, using the RAM. Okay, so they both are using RAM, and they both giving this they both at same time giving the data to CPU. Because of that, it create a bottleneck means the data flow to CPU and back to RAM, and then CPU then back to RAM, which hurdles, okay, which hurdles or which slow the speed of our CPU. So for that resolving, we create RAM, or we make flash memory, or we make cache. Okay, cache memory. So all we know that there is a cache memory in today, but at that time there is no cache memory, only RAM, all and CPU. Okay, but now we have cache memory, we have RAM, we have CPU, and not only that, we have now cores also. Okay, in CPU there's 6 core, 4 core, and even 8 core, 16 core, and even 32 cores, and much more. Okay, so because of that, things just take different shapes, and our program execution and our program functionality change. Now INEC full form, as we know earlier, electronic numerical integrator and computer. Electronic numerical integrated and computer. Okay, this full form you have to know, because sometime in exam they ask you in 1 marks or 2 marks. Okay, or even in MCQ it gives the full form of INEC, because INEC is very important, because it is a first generation computer and it changed everything. Because after the INEC, the the generations and things really start to begin. So electronic numerical integrator and computer. Now it what is IDVAC? So electronic discrete variable automatic computer. Now UNIVAC, universal automatic computer, then IBM 701, then IBM 650, then later on these things comes. Okay, so as we know, what vacuum tools are for first generation processing. Okay, now the thing is that magnetic drums. Okay, first generation memory. So this magnetic drums are same comes at a time of first generation. So what they do, but they are the magnetic drums were earlier form of memory storage, resembling a metal cylinder coated with magnetic material. So at INEC time there is no magnetic drum, but later on, uh, at that series IBM series have these magnetic drums, where a metal cylinder coated with magnetic material store the things. How they help in processing? The magnetic drums store data by magnetizing small spots on its surface. These spots represent binary data 0 and 1, similar to how modern hard drives store information magnetically. Okay, so basically, as you see, even if you are using the magnetic drums, if you are using RAM, if you are using anything, even if you are using image processing, even you are using the camera, first foremost or fundamental thing is binary data 0 and 1, 0 and 1. You just first of all you just assign the 0 and 1. After that you change to that number, then the applying the different formation like and nor zor etc etc. Then after getting the you get the process, and that after doing the process you just get the data and then do the processing on it. So first foremost thing is that you are just representing it in binary form. Then later on you do the all sorts of processing and all sorts of things. But for foremost thing is binary, you are changing it to binary data. Okay, now reading and writing data, the drum would rotate and fixed. A read write heads would access magnetic spots. Data was written to drum by changing magnetic polarity at specific location, and it was read by detecting the polarity. Okay, now processing. Since drum could store both instruction program code and data, it was part of earlier computers processing system. The computer control unit would fetch instruction from drum, execute them, and store the result back onto drum. Okay, now magnetic drums were relatively slow because they rely on magnetic rotation of drum, so accessing data could take times. But for time they allow computers to store large amount of data that was possible with earlier technology like punch card. Okay, now example of how they work together. In earlier computers like INEC vacuum tools perform the actual computation, and magnetic drum store the data and instruction. For example, a program instruction was stored on magnetic drum in a binary form. The vacuum tube process data by reading these instructions, performing operation like addition or multiplication. After processing, results were returned back to the drum for later use. Okay, now second generation. Now we come to second generation, and things really start to developing and things really start to take shapes. Okay. uh so it is ending. So what happened in second generation, things are same, things are the basic things are same. Representing of data is always 0 and 1, always we're gonna use the binary thing. Only thing changing is that we are gonna use the transistors. Now transistor technologies came, and transistor replaced the vacuum tools, acting as an electronic switch that control the flow of electricity. Transistor were much smaller, consume less power, and generate less heat, making computer more efficient, more reliable, and more fast. Okay. Now second thing is smaller size because of transistor, faster and more reliable because of transistor. Magnetic core memory plus second generation computer use magnetic core memory for primary storage, replacing the drum memory for earlier machine. In earlier machine we are using the drum memory, but as second generation came, we are using now magnetic core memory. Now as you see, this is the best example of magnetic core memory. As you can see this diagram, if I zoom, you can see the how tiny bits, uh, these threading are done, this all done by hands. Okay, at that time there is no machine to develop this magnetic core memory. So at that time these all are done by a hand, and these small you can see the you, this whole thing is 64-bit data storage. Okay, it can store 64-bit data. So this is the example of magnetic core memory for primary storage, replacing the drum memory of earlier machine. So magnetic core memory store data using the same using small magnetic rings. As you can see, cores with each core representing one bit of data, 0 and 1. As you can see, this is a small architecture design. As you can see, there is a magnetic field. It basically flip when you the magnetic field is being generated there. As it flip, so as it flip, it is to 0 or 1 according to that. Okay, when current pass through the wires, the magnetic field of a core flip to either to represent either a 0 or 1. Okay, the orientation of magnetic field can be read by sending current through the wire again, allowing system to retrieve the data. So once the current is flow, it flip and it flip, and the orientation of it become 0 or 1. Okay, as the 0 and 1 it become, when you read the data, at that time again it flip and you get the what really that store in it. Okay, now structure, how it works. Structure, each core is a tiny ferrite ring. Okay, so you can see there is ferrite ring in this diagram. You cannot see because it is so small, but small ferrite ring. As you can see, this is a bigger diagram of that representation. The codes are arranged in a matrix of row and column. As you can see, there is a row, then column. Okay, the storing a bit, the magnetization of code determine whether it represent a 0 or 1. Okay, to store a bit, an electric current is passed through wires to flip the magnetic polarity. Reading data, to read a bit, that similar electric current is used to attempt to change the core polarity. If core state change, it generate a small electrical signals which is detected as 1. If no change occur, it detected as 0. Okay, so it flip, so it represented as 1, and if it not flip, it represented or detected as 0. The fourth point is non volatility. Volatility. Okay, there is a non volatility. Magnetic core memory is non volatile, meaning it retains data even when the power is off, as the magnetic orientation remain unchanged. So even the power goes off, magnetic orientation remain as it is. uh, then third point is that high level programming language. At second generation there came high level programming languages, for example Fortran or COBOL. Okay, in 1957 and 1959, making programming easier and more abstract from machine language or assembly code. And fourth point is that there came the batch processing, means the job or program were collected and processed in batches instead of real time. At the earlier time in first generation, the program or the execution is done in real time, but as the technology advances, they get to know that you can just do the processing in batch time. Means you can allocate the batches, and you can allocate the packets, or you can send data in packets, so that each packet first executed, then then the next packet executed, and later on the other one. You can do the things in serial one. Okay. So the notable second generation computers are: first, IBM 1401, one of the most popular second generation computer widely used in businesses. IBM 7090, used for scientific computing and data processing. Then third one is UNIVAC second, an upgrade for the first generation of UNIVAC using transistor instead of vacuum tube. So these are some second generation, first generation and second generation computer, and how it process, how the things goes inside it, what really is vacuum tube. In this video we really discuss what really is vacuum tube, how it process, what is transistor, how transistor replace the vacuum tube, how the things all works in a simple way. We discuss all these things in this video. If you like this video, you can comment down, you can like the video. If you didn't satisfy this video, you can also comment down what are the changes we have to make, so that things being more clear to you in our next video. So if you like, you definitely have to comment down what you like. Okay, so see you in the next video. Till then, see you, tata, bye bye. Thank you for listening, and thank you for giving your time to this video. Thank you.